could have been gold.
Reached our own sports
That
talk
could have
show.
went real viral.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Empowering Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm Glenn Harper.
Julie Smith.
What's going on, Julie?
Well, you know it's cold, so I can't wait to leave this state, right?
Well, it's cold, but it's going to be like single-digit cold in a day and a half here.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but we're happy to be. First day of Christmas is not even a week. First day of winter is only a week away, and it feels like it's winter. But anyway, we've got the pleasure of having a great guest today, and I'd like to introduce you to Ron Ladner, co-founder of Shaggy's Restaurants. He has decided to bring his motto on how to treat people to the Shaggy's conglomerate. The motto of surrender ourselves 100% to our guests, always put their needs before ours, make them feel special, appreciated, recognized, valued, and most importantly, make their day. This has propelled him in 6 short years to have 5 restaurants on some sort of waterfront property. Ron has this ability to put his employees in a position where they're respected, earn great wages and perks, which enables the team to provide a company-wide culture of making each guest feel like they're the most important person in the world during their stay. Great food and drinks help, but we all know customer experience is what drives growth and long-term success. Since he likes fishing so much, as anyone who's from the Gulf Coast can attest to, he decided to include charters from his restaurants, which is a CPA is a brilliant way to deduct one's passion as a business expense. Go fishing, catch the fish, clean the fish, cook the fish, eat the fish. The holy grail of every fisherman's dream. Was he satisfied with saltwater fishing at only 4 restaurants? No. He wanted to explore freshwater fishing, so he decided that the Ross and Barnett Reservoir, the Res, was a logical choice. Ron is a living example of merging business and passion together to bring a result that everyone wins. I suspect if you surveyed his staff, they would say he's the best team leader in the world. We can't wait to delve into his epiphany on how he started his journey with the mythology that he chose. Thanks, Ron, for being on our show.
I'm happy to be here.
Well, great. Well, we love stalking our guests to find obscure facts and controversy, and we start off that way to make things easy. And the first thing it says that you grew up in Kiln, Mississippi, and wanted to be an astronaut since the days as a young boy. You would sneak into John C. Stennis Space Center. Is that true?
No.
His research.
I know what that is. That sounds more like Brett Favre. That's where Brett Favre was born and raised.
Gotcha.
I don't know if he would be an astronaut, but
we just made that. Where were you born at?
In a little town called Long Beach, which is right in the center of the Mississippi Gulf Coast.
All right. And have you always lived on Long Beach then? Is that where you've been as a kid? Did you guys move around a lot, or that was home and parents lived there? And
no, that was home. I was born in Gulfport, which was the next city over, and we moved to Long Beach when I was in kindergarten, and my dad had that house, up until I was 30 years old. So it was home, a small home, but home.
It doesn't matter, right? As long as it feels like home.
Yeah.
Did you have any siblings?
Yeah, I had two brothers and a sister, and we grew up. I think I pulled it up on Zillow. I think the house was 14. It was like 1,300 square feet, and there was 4 kids, and one full bath, and that's just you learn to kind of cope and to handle it.
What's funny with that is it's all perspective how grateful one is about their circumstances. 100 years earlier, in a 300 square foot cabin with 15 kids growing up on the frontier somewhere, they thought they were in high cotton, and it just keeps graduating to like today. If you don't have a 5,000 square foot house, you're nobody. It's the damnedest thing.
Yeah, and I look back and I thought we were the poorest people in the world, and as an adult, I travel more. I spend time in Nairobi, and you get to see the shanties where the kids grow up with no running water and tin huts. And I've been to Mumbai and India. And when you get to see these things firsthand, you kind of look back and say, we actually had it a lot better than others.
That's it. Were your parents entrepreneurs, or were they work for a company?
No. My dad was a union electrician. Seems like in those day and times, in the 80s, 70s, and 80s, he was out of work more than he was working. So we typically struggled financially as a family. But my mother was a Catholic saint, and she was kind of the anchor of our family that kept us together. And kept us inspired and happy.
It's funny when you see somebody do the entrepreneurial journey. We try to backtrack that to see when did that really start. So when you were a kid, were you doing newspapers, or you're Julie say painting rocks? What were you doing out there to hustle and make some money? Were you doing that?
No, I was just trying to figure out, why are we so poor?
Okay.
And I'm not going to live like this. I'm going to figure out a way. And it was just more of a curiosity of kind of studying society and I understand how doctors become high earners. I understand why maybe electricians are not high earners, but how do we, I'm just very curious to why are we so poor and other people are doing so well? And it was more of a curiosity that led to studying, right? It's understanding and having this drive to come out of it. I didn't have that person, and that's why I'm so passionate about it now, with especially kids and younger folks. I didn't have, someone in my life as a youngster coaching me on the business side. I got a lot of coaching from the sports side, and my dad. I just released a book, and I talk about how he instilled the competitive drive in me, and the understanding of preparation and practice and execution. And I think that is what, in my childhood, I can map back to my success as an entrepreneur and a business leader.
So that would be the athletics. What sports did you play?
I played all three,
chess, swimming, and
cricket.
Yeah, it's a big down there. It's big.
Hockey,
Yes.
We only had three. It was basketball, football, and baseball, and that was it.
So instead of you working for a job making money, you were immersed in athletics, and that's where you got your discipline, right?
Actually, I did both, and I look at the kids today, and they're going. We didn't go to camps, and we didn't take vacations. The day I got out of school in the summer, I had a job, and so I was doing both. And a lot of times during school, I had a job doing something. I'd go to work after school, so we had to contribute to the pot. Our parents' pot to feed us and clothe us, and but we didn't do vacations. If we weren't at school, we were working somewhere. We had to find a job.
That's awesome.
What did you do? What did you do for work?
Mostly construction, or I worked at a lumber yard for years in the summer, but it was all manual labor type stuff.
That's not that hard when it's in the Mississippi in the summertime. I don't know why that would be difficult. I'm totally kidding. I mean, that's
it's easy when it's 100 degrees.
Yes, I grew up on a farm, so it's the craziest thing. You do what you got to do, but you don't even realize it because you don't know any better. I mean, you didn't have air conditioning, I'm sure, and it just was what it was, right?
Yeah, it's just what you're accustomed to, and it was always hot, and we just got used to it. We managed to deal with it.
So the you had, again, I'm trying to piece this together. So you're living where you're living. Parents do what they do. You guys do what you do. You're trying to do athletics. You got to contribute to the household. And at some point, about how old where you're like, this just doesn't, there's got to be something more out there. Why are we struggling so much? Why are other people not? What age you think that was? And what was like that thing that hit you in the head saying, what's going on, made you question it?
I think it's when I went to college, and I didn't finish college. I prioritized the fraternity over the academics.
Smart.
And
it worked out well for you.
Yeah. And again, the curiosity got me. I really thought the college curriculum, the academic stuff, was just dumb. And I just couldn't I couldn't engage like I should and apply myself like I was capable. And that was my first time to be around folks from like the other part of the state with culturally different than me, who grew up in different types of families. And I started seeing the difference. It's like, there is a chance, right? There's other people who have made it in this world. And I became real disconnected with the college courses. And that's when I started really researching on my own, a path out of here, right? And I landed in sales. I know I can sell, and I know people who can sell can make money, and that's kind of where I planted my roots. Was I'm gonna become a salesperson, and I'm gonna be the best there is, and that's kind of the path I took.
What did you start off in college wanting to be when you grew up?
Well, I was actually in the computer science program, and yeah, I did okay. I was just fascinated with technology.
Hmm.
And all of my buddies were in marketing classes. And so I said, this is just too hard. So I went to the head of marketing, who just recently passed away. And I said, look, I want to change my major from computer science to marketing because this is more of me, right? He said, you already have the gift, to communicate with people and to sell, right? I can't teach you that. These other guys over here, I am teaching them to become better communicators, better salespeople. Think about it this way. If you stick with your computer science program and you have that natural gift to sell, when it's time to get a job, people like IBM and Microsoft, they have Microsoft at the time, people like IBM are going to be much more attracted to your skills because you understand the technology side of it. And I believe you're going to be much more valuable. And that's what I did. I stuck with it. I didn't make it, but my first job was selling software in Dallas. Yeah.
That sounds horrible. Did you like it?
Loved it. Loved it.
Just because you're talking to the people, it didn't matter what you're selling, you just like getting out and talking to the people, right?
Yeah, and I love going to the big city and the opportunity, and it was a great experience for me. It was good.
I'm curious, where did your siblings land?
Kind of all over. My sister in Atlanta, my brother in California, and my youngest brother stayed and followed my dad's footsteps. Yeah.
Were you the only one that became an entrepreneur?
Yes. Yes.
Isn't it? Are you the oldest?
Yes, I am.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, you got to be the trailblazer. Well, it's always interesting to see how people got where they got. And again, some people are just born entrepreneurs, and when an opportunity provides, they jump on it. Some people, they needed something to like hit them to go do it. And some people just, they fall into it somehow. And in your case, you just ground. And all of a sudden you're like, this is what I want to do. And like, you're selling software. How'd you decide on restaurants? That's a big jump.
Well, wait, take us through the journey though. So how long did you sell software?
Here.
I want to go back and you said, what moment did you decide that and we were talking about Ole Miss earlier, and I learned like late in high school and early in college that the pretty girls always ended up with guys with money. And I was like, you know what? I want a shot at that. You can do all you want and be as charming and look as good as you can, but if you didn't have the total package, you didn't have a shot. But I went to work with a company it's a software consulting company called Capgemini, and I started out as like a programmer with those guys and worked my way into that sales position. And I think I excelled better than I expected, and I studied a lot. I listened to tapes, and I did everything I could to consume as much information to become the best I could be. And at that time, American Airlines is headquartered in Dallas, and I think a dozen salespeople that preceded me tried to break into that account and no one succeeded. And so I went to the head of the Southwest region. I said, I want a shot at it. He goes, everyone's failed. I said, well, I want a shot. And this is an example that I try to share with the younger folks that we mentor these days, that there's a lack of curiosity in the younger culture right now. And I'm a very curious person. And what I decided to do is, at that time, we didn't have internet, right? So I couldn't, but I found this service that would track every newspaper or magazine article about any company, right? And I said American Airlines, and they mail it to you. So, of course, we didn't have security in those days, so I could just walk into the office of these people. Mm-hmm. And all of my competitors and my predecessors would walk in and say, hey, how you doing today? Is there anything I can do to help you out? I would walk in and say, hey, I hear American is about to hire a new CFO because your old CFO was let go. It looks like they're looking at the guy from Delta. And I always had news for them, right? I always informed them of something that they didn't know about their own company. And it got to the point where they couldn't wait to see me, right? Because I always had some news for them that, hey, you guys just reported yesterday your third quarter earnings, and it looks like your revenues are higher and your bookings are higher. Oh, really? That's great. So that's and I eventually built American Airlines into the largest account in the Southwest region. And that's kind of when the light went on in my head that, you know what, maybe, I'm making these guys a lot of money, and no one from my company did anything to help me get through that door and establish this account, right? So why am I working for someone else? And that's kind of when I decided to go off and do my own thing. And we ended up, I went to work for a much smaller company, kind of a competitor with more of a 100% commit. So I was like an agent for this company, as a sales agent. So I wasn't employed, but I got a bigger piece of revenue. And then I turned into, I personally had more than half of the sales of the entire company with 3 other guys. And that's when I just said, that's it. It's time. And we started, I took one of the guys from there, and he and I started a software services company. We moved to Atlanta, and then we turned that into something pretty special as well.
Did you then sell it out and then did something? That was your exit to do this new gig, or what'd you do with that?
Yeah, we sold out, and we didn't make enough money to retire, but I made enough money to get out of Atlanta and get back to the saltwater where I was born and raised and always wanted to be. And that's what we did. We had a second home on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, so we sold our house in Atlanta and our second home. We bought our dream home on the water in Pass Christian, Mississippi, 11 months before Katrina came right through the town. Yeah.
Oh, that probably was not good.
It was terrible. Yeah.
So when did you meet your wife?
The previous company, the smaller company I was working for in Dallas, they assigned a technical sales guy. We worked together. And I remember at the Christmas, we traveled a lot. At the Christmas party, his wife came up to me. She said, I've been watching you, and I don't trust you with my husband, and I'm going to get you married. I said, all right, well, that's fine. I said, a week later, she calls me. She goes, I'm going to set you up with a blind date with one of my best friends. And ironically, she's from Mississippi. She grew up her childhood in Atlanta in the same neighborhood as my wife. So she told me, this girl's beautiful. She used to be a model, and she can't wait to go out with you. And later find out that my wife told her no, that I'm trying to reconcile with my boyfriend that we broke up with. So, the persistence coupled with my arrogance at that time, I literally called her 30 days. She said no every day. All right, she blew me off. In 30 days, I called her. Sometimes I'd I talked to her mother an hour, and finally she gave me a Wednesday. And we were engaged 6 months later and then married 6 months after that.
So that was the best sales deal you've ever closed.
That's impressive. 30
Yeah.
days. No.
Yeah.
Does she tell the same story? I'm curious.
What's that?
I said, does she tell the same story?
You need to get the book because she explains the whole thing in my book. Yeah. She'll tell the same story.
It's funny how this life happens for everybody, and you're always where you're supposed to be, doing what you're supposed to be doing, and it's at some point you were doing this for yourself and your customers, and then you had the exit, and then you're doing your thing, and you're like, you probably had a feeling with your restaurants. I think that's when you started those, right? You're like, well, how can I do this? Is that how the transaction happened, or that's how the story goes?
Our town, Pasco Sham, was completely wiped out. There was nothing standing, and we had a decision to make, and it was at a point in my life where I just didn't know if I had it in me to go through the rebuilding process. I mean, if you could see how it wasn't like, hey, we need to repair a roof. It's like we need to tear our house down and start over. It's like rebuilding this whole city. There's no commerce. There's no nothing. And Laura and I, my wife, we were staying temporarily in Destin, which is probably a 2.5, 3 hour drive. And I was driving back every day, and we kind of talked about it and said, God has given us the resources to really help out here. All right, and we shouldn't take our blessings and our gifts for granted. I mean, this is why we have what we have, so we can help. And so we made a conscious decision that we're going to stay and fight. And through that process, I got real involved with the city and trying to, the economic development component of, what can we do? And there was a bait shop in the harbor, and I was talking to those guys prior to the storm because they wanted to sell it, and it's owned by the city. And I thought about a great redevelopment of this little bait shop because that's really what I wanted to do is commercial development with 0 employees. And just thinking through the spirit of the town was broken. There was no hope with the people. They were down on their luck, and everyone was just in this terrible mood, right? So this came with this idea of like, let's build a waterfront restaurant, a place where the people in this town can gather and have their spirits lifted, to give them hope, to make them feel better, and to make them feel respected, a place where they can laugh and be part of the community with others. And that's exactly what we did. And the original, that was our original mission. And it wasn't to, all right, we need to do 15% and profits. Let's just do it. If we don't make money, that's fine. But we're going to be disciplined because I'm a disciplined operator, regardless of what the goal is, right? And that was our mission. And the sub mission was, let's create jobs for people and give them some dignity and respect and give them a place that they're proud to work and they know they're being treated fairly and that the owner's taken care of. An ironic thing is none of that has changed for 18 years. That's exactly how we operate today. And the lesson is, I share this with whoever's interested is, it's the right thing to do to take care of people and to make sure that your guests come in. And our mission is to surrender yourself to our guests and to make sure that when they walk out that door, they're happier than when they walk through the door. And that kind of gives our employees their mission. And it's not about, all right, take the order, then read it back, then go get their drinks. It's like, what do you need to do with that person today to make them feel better about themselves? Because that's the guy, that's the people who are going to return. And everyone's different, so everyone needs to be treated differently, but your goal is to make sure that they feel better.
On your employees, are they long-term employees then?
Well, that's, and I go over this in the book, is that one of the proudest metrics for me is that, when we started this, people say, you don't know how to run a restaurant. I said, I don't need to know how to run a restaurant. I can build a culture and run an organization. That's all I want to do. And we were a professional services company, and we've kind of transformed the restaurant culture from transient employees to a full-time home for people. And if you go do the research, the average tenure for restaurant employees in the United States is 75 days. For us, it's 4 years. So we've transformed that whole model into more of a permanent model.
So you're building this first restaurant against all odds, right? So everything needs rebuilt. How do you get the resources to prioritize this restaurant to really make an impact on this community?
We have relationships, and I think people, the contractors kind of prioritized us. They too wanted to see some life in the town. They felt that, hey, this is a great idea. If we can get this town to come alive, it's gonna be good for us too, because people are going to want to move back, and that's kind of how we pitched it to them. The better we do, the better you're going to do. So, and we prioritize this over rebuilding our house. It's, let's turn this into something special. We're all going to win. Everybody in this town, not just myself and Laura.
So you have this vision, you have this mission while you're going through the process. At what point do you realize the impact?
Well, we opened in 2007, and this was right before the financial crisis. And I just opened the restaurant and had some people running it, not paying attention, because I literally just wanted to break even. I put up all the money, and it was just an investment for me, like a bond fund. If I just get my interest back, I'm happy. And so I embarked on a commercial real estate development mission, and I was going to do small condos, like 6-unit condos. And I literally bought the property across the street overlooking the water. And that was during 2008. And not a lender in the world would even have a meeting with me to talk about. No one was lending money on anything. So without funding, I really couldn't do anything. And I pursued it. But one thing hit me is 2008, we did 5 times the revenue that I projected. And I started digging deeper into Shaggy's, and I said, we're in a recession, but people are still spending money on cheeseburgers, cold beer, margaritas. And that's when the light went off and said, this may be a recession-proof business model, the way we have it set up. And I kind of did some research and just decided that we're going to open another one to see are we on to something special here, or is this just a special place that can't be duplicated because of the story behind it? And so we opened our next one in Biloxi, Mississippi, which is 28 miles away. And Biloxi did 2.5 times the revenue as the one in Pass Christian. And that's when I said, all right, we're on to something.
Isn't it funny?
So wait, at what point do you sell the land across from the first restaurant?
Well, we built another restaurant there, and that was part of the story. We built another restaurant there. Our second restaurant was a different concept. It was a little bit higher end. It did good, but nowhere near as good as Shaggy's. And I ended up renting that out to a restaurant guy who opened another restaurant there, and he ended up buying that whole property from me. So I wanted to concentrate on just new Shaggy's, and so we sold that in probably 2012.
Yeah, isn't it funny? The catastrophic events absolutely pushed you away from something into something else that if they wouldn't have happened, I don't know where you'd be sitting today. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? I mean, catastrophic events, the hurricane, financial crisis, you couldn't do what you wanted. You had to do something different, and it turned out perfect. That's
yeah.
crazy.
And we tell our people, when they get down or something happens or there's a setback in life, it's like, it's great news, right? Hurricane knocked your house down. That's great. We have opportunity now. If you go look at our 5 locations, and we made a conscious decision before COVID to not add locations. Most of the people in my market, in my industry, measure themselves on how many locations they have.
Mm-hmm.
And we just measure ourselves on our revenue. And so what we decided to do, since we own all of our real estate, we decided to expand on our current footprint. And from 2019 to this year, I think our revenue in those 5 locations is up like 60%. So it's going real well for us. But all of our locations, we go back to the catastrophic. I think it's the way you accept it or reject it, right? And I've always accepted these things as opportunities. And if you look at our 5 locations, except for our Jackson location, our 4 locations were built on land that was previously occupied by a food service business or a retail business that was knocked down because of a hurricane. So we took advantage of that. If there weren't hurricanes, there would be no Shaggy's, because all the locations we have now, there would be a restaurant standing there that's not ours. So we looked at this as an opportunity. Hey, there's nothing left standing. Well, that means there's a lot of land for a lot of different opportunities on the water.
So the fun part of this is, as you're doing this, you're developing your people. They've got purpose. They're sticking around long term. Your customer experience is growing. You feel good about what's going on. The community's rallying around it. And you're like, you know what? I got this passion of fishing. When did you decide to mix that into the locations to add the chartering and let you go do what you really love to do, which is obviously fish? No fisherman says they're not a fisherman.
I think he really likes a cheeseburger and beer.
No, he likes fishing.
Yeah. I have to give all of the credit to my business partner, Remmer Covington Jr. And he approached me right after Katrina, and he was a well-known fishing guide in Venice, Louisiana, blue marlin, tuna, and he started doing that when he was in high school. He ended up going to college at Millsaps in Jackson, Mississippi. And I didn't know Remmer. He's 20 years younger than me. But he got a real job after college, and he was still fishing on the weekends. He was taking charter. He was chartering people out of Venice. He was driving 3 hours to fish on the weekend. And we ended up, through a friend, I ended up fishing with him. He said, he wanted my advice. And he said, man, I really think this is where my heart is. Chartering. And if I could start my own company, I could build this hospitality charter business, and this is where my heart is. And I told him, I said, brother, if that's where your heart is, this is where you need to be, right? And the next question, I go through this, I spent 1 chapter on this in the book. So he looks at me and goes, well, that's what I'm going to do. I trust you. You've been successful. He goes, I only have one problem. I said, what's that? He goes, I need a boat. I have no money. My credit is terrible. I was like, well, stop right there. He goes, would you consider partnering with me? We'll buy the boat together. I'll handle the operations, and you can go fish whenever you want. And I got home and I told my wife about it. I said, I've got to help this guy. I mean, I love him. He's a great guy. You can tell he had a great heart. Uh, he was just a good human being. So we ended up partnering together, and that's how we met. And that's when I started fishing. Uh, he During the BP oil spill, another disaster. Rimmer was in the right place at the right time and formed a company to support BP and the state of Louisiana in a cleanup effort. And he did really, really, really well. That was a short term venture for him, and he was kind of looking for something to do. And that's when we were looking at opening a new restaurant in Pensacola Beach. And he asked if he could, hey man, now I want to be your partner. I want to help you out like you helped me. And I'd like to join you in the restaurant and expansion. And we became business partners. And he's kind of one that got me, no pun intended, hooked on the fishing and especially the blue marlin fishing.
It's so bizarre. Most people, it's hard to trust somebody, and it's hard to help somebody putting it out there where they've zero experience, zero cash, zero whatever. That was a big ask for him to do that for you. That's a big thing for you to help him out with that. And sometimes you just got to say yes, right? And not more often than not, it doesn't work. But when it does work, it's really special.
Well, I talk about this in the book, and to me, it's real important. But what I say is that one of the most important achievements for an entrepreneur or a business leader is to find his replacement and a replacement that's better than him. And that's exactly what I did with Rimmer. And culturally, we spend a lot of time mentoring people, whether they're going to be a manager for us later or they're going to leave us in 3 years and go be a manager at Dell Computer. It's important for us to give them as much wisdom and guidance. And maybe it's because I didn't have that growing up. And I just feel that, God has given me this gift and these talents. I need to share them with these young kids who are interested in us. And most of our managers come from within. And we spend a lot of time, what we find is that managers from national chains, we spend more time breaking their habits than we do producing real results. And I'm going to give you an example. This is a really good example of our culture and how we develop people. My boat captain has been fishing with Rimmer since he was 7 years old. All right. He did an internship. He graduated from Ole Miss with a mechanical engineering degree 2 years ago. He did an internship with us on my fishing boat, the Cheeseburger, 2 years ago. And he got credit for it because part of the internship was managing budgets, maintenance, all the things that you would use, all the skills to managing people, managing schedules. And now when he graduated, he said, I don't want to be a mechanical engineer and go to work for an engineering company or an electric company. I want to go to work with you guys. And we're like, all right, what is he going to do? And so we talked about it, and he wants to run the Cheeseburger as a boat captain. He's doing a fantastic job. But part of the process is I'm mentoring him right now to take a bigger role in the restaurants. All right. So I'm teaching him to budget, how to create a culture, how to treat people, how to inspire people, how to motivate people, how to deal with vendors and contractors, how to manage money, how to inspire people to come work for you, how to keep people employed. And we're teaching him all of these things at a much smaller level as he runs our fishing boat and our motor yacht.
At one's point in an entrepreneur journey we see a lot is most people are passionate about what they do and they have this false illusion they do it for the money, but it's never really about the money. They want to make some money, but you reach the absolute apex when you are impacting others and you are teaching others how to be successful. And it sounds like that's what you're doing. And that's got to be the most rewarding thing that you've ever done, right?
Yeah, and I don't think I'll add to that. I don't think all entrepreneurs reach that apex.
No, they don't.
You know, there are a lot of them who are still chasing the money first, and that's a model that'll blow up at some point. But uh, back to your point, yeah, it's real important for us to make a big impact on people's lives, and we do that through, you know, a lot of these folks in the restaurant business really never had that mentor or that person in their life. We're teaching them things now at age 30 that they probably should have learned at 15.
Yep.
It's just solid manners and respect and work ethic, social skills. And, you know, I think that's why a lot of these folks hang around. They're getting more than just a job. They're getting, you know, two guys who care for them and want to really see them succeed, not just in the workplace, but at home.
In life.
We want to help you at home. And I was on a recent podcast, and they asked me, the guy goes, I used to sell health insurance, and that's a big topic today. Do you guys have health insurance? I said, well, it's not just a health insurance. We provide our people with more just an insurance policy. We kind of take a holistic view and say, for someone to be healthy, in our opinion, that our workforce, the number one path to healthy people is solving their problems at home. And we take a case by case situation. They may be, maybe they can't pay their bills because they have a sick child, or maybe they have an elderly parent and they're helping them. And so we go down the path of trying to understand each individual and help them overcome what may be going on at home. And we find out that that's the best investment, you know, is to making sure they're not just a health insurance policy, but they're being healthy mentally and emotionally, and their family is doing well.
So we like to end the podcast with one last question. It's the hardest question of the whole podcast.
Deep.
But what is your end game?
I don't think about an end game. I don't know what that means, end game. I'm just live every day and just be thankful that I'm alive. And, you know, I tell my guys, I have a captain and 3 crew member. I say, hey, let's go fishing. You know, next year, I'm right now I have the money and the health to do this. You can lose both of them overnight. So let's go fishing. I can stand up and fight a 600-pound blue marlin for 2.5 hours. All right, let's keep doing this. And, you know, we just try to live every day and use our talents. Every day is different. I'm not a long-term planning guy. It's, hey, let's just fish. Let's enjoy the boats. We have a 97-foot boat and a 60-foot boat. And I fish, and my wife comes down, and we hop through the Caribbean, and we just live a day at a time. And you know, try to stay as healthy as I can. I work out every single day, and you know, just live a full life and be very, very faithful, and be ready when my time comes. For that end game is to be ready to have my conversation with the man.
Well, you answered it perfectly. Because for people like you, there really is no end game. You're never going to stop. You have too much knowledge, too much passion. You know, you have too much to give. So you answered it perfectly.
Again, you reach that apex of helping others achieve their greatness they didn't know they had. That's when you know when you've reached the point. And why would you stop doing that? That's the best.
Yeah. You know, it's just like we were talking about sports earlier. You look at, you know, these coaches like NFL coaches like Bill Parcells or even college coaches, Nick Saban. And if you've ever seen the graphics of these guys, they'll do like a coaching tree and who they coached and, you know, how successful they were. And then they spawned off other coaches, and, you know, Nick Saban and you know, worked for Belichick and I'm sorry, Bill Parcells. Saban and Belichick were assistants under Parcells. turn these guys. He made them better coaches than he was. That's
right.
I think that's a great way to look at things. And Bill Parcells probably happy and very proud that he was able to,
create a legacy.
Yeah,
that's what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you this: if you would have been a pleasure having you on here. We're looking forward to this conversation for a while. I hope our listeners will glean some things of, there's a right way to do business, a wrong way to do business, and the way everybody does it. And if you have a choice, it's always better to do it the right way. And if you want to give a plug to your book or something, that would be great, so people know what that looks like, and then how to get a hold of your restaurants if they happen to be in the neighborhood.
Yeah, the book, we released it actually in September 18th on National Cheeseburger Day, and it's called Shaggy's Cheeseburger. And it's a real life tragedy to triumph story. And the cheeseburger is a metaphor of, when I started writing the book, the name of the book was The Shaggy Story. And I just felt like that was a lame, uninspiring title. So I got thinking about it, and the cheeseburger is our number one seller at all times, even though we're a waterfront seafood restaurant. That's why I named my boat the Cheeseburger. And that you think about a cheeseburger, and cheeseburger kind of brings you joy and comfort in a messy world. And metaphorically, that's exactly what our culture is, right? Is bringing people comfort and joy and happiness in a messy world. And we released the book, and for the past 3 or 4 weeks, we're Amazon #1 bestseller in the restaurant category. But what I'm most proud of is we were the #1 bestseller in business biographies.
Wow.
And it wasn't just that we were #1 in that category, it was the company we were in. We were ahead of Cornelius Vanderbilt, Elon Musk, Donald Trump. It's a very big accomplishment for us. So the book is doing very well. And Simon & Schuster just signed me on. They're going to publish the audiobook, which should come out in the next couple of weeks.
Congratulations. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Done.
Well, so we can find the book on Amazon. And then do you have a website or anything that you want to?
Yeah, I have a website. It's just Ron Ladner, RonLadner.com, where if someone wants to get in touch with me, they can get my email address there.
Awesome. Well, really appreciate you having on the show today, and I hope our listeners will get all kinds of good nuggets out of that. This is the Empowering Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm Glenn Harper.
Julie Smith.
Well, good luck to Ohio State until they play in SEC schools.
I tell you, it's probably Georgia.